Hey y'all, welcome back to Ramblin' Mama. I'm Lisa. If you're new here and you're into deep dives on true crime, please consider giving me a subscribe. I think you'll like what you see. Okay, so there was one person or subscriber who asked me to take a look at this entire interview. It's long, as y'all can see, the Mary Kay Letourneau interview. This was done in 2018, which is 2 years before she passed of cancer. And it is awkward AF. I haven't watched the whole interview, but I watched pieces of it for the video that I did on child predators. If you didn't see it, I'll link it in the description. Go take a look at it. But I started thinking about, prominent female child predators in history. This is the most famous one. And yeah, we will take a look. It'll probably be a 2 or 3, maybe even more part series because this is long. All right, so let's dive in. If you want me to do a general video background on Mary Kay Letourneau, not looking at body language and all of that stuff, please let me know. Okay, let's go.
No matter, what you might call this relationship, it certainly hasn't been fleeting. How long have you both been married for now?
Yeah, I think this year was 13. Yeah, 13, and then 2005, 6, 7. Okay, yeah.
About 13 years.
13 plus, yeah.
That's quite incredible. Has that time gone quickly, slowly?
Time kind of just really flies by, actually. Yeah. And you're busy every day, so.
Well, you're busy. You're busy, very, very busy.
Did y'all see? I'm going to try to limit this. You know how I do it. Did y'all see her searching for him, almost trying to get his soul attention with that look just now? This is what you just saw is a pattern that repeats over and over and over again in this interview that makes it so uncomfortable. And it's probably behavior you've seen in, if you're friends with a couple, you and your spouse or partner is friends with another couple and they're having difficulties, like this is all that kind of body language. So usually one person in the couple is a little bit more like upbeat and kind of cooperative, and the other person in the couple is a little more withholding, withdrawn, and it's usually like a part of their natural personalities anyway, like extroverted, introverted, but it also speaks to their particular defense mechanisms and also I think where they are in the state of the relationship. When Mary Kay Letourneau passed away, she and Vili were separated, but he was still by her side when she passed on her deathbed. So they never finalized that divorce, but obviously there was trouble in paradise.
Busy being parents.
Yeah.
I think those years were so, when you're moving through the school years, those went really fast, it seems. I'm like, oh my goodness, weren't they just 6 and 8? Just, I'm like, whoa. And that's what I tell parents, like, it's going to go fast. And it's like, every day matters. And because we have friends with children that were once our children's age in grade school and middle school, high school, and now both of our daughters are graduated recently. And it just, especially high school, it seemed to go by very quickly. There were so many involvements, there were activities,
Yeah.
and you're just like staying on it, uniforms for this, and going from this activity to this activity, and here comes the homecomings, the proms, and it just keeps going and fast, fast, fast. And all of a sudden, what? All of a sudden
They're gone.
no,
Well,
really.
not gone, but
Well, it's funny you should mention that. You're on the cusp of a big life event as parents. Your youngest is preparing to do the unthinkable and move out, Vili. How are you coping?
it's natural, I guess. I hear like a lot of people, a lot of girls who turn 18, they kind of just leave the nest, and then if you're a guy, you kind of stay in a little longer.
Oh, I think the opposite.
And that's just what I heard.
Oh, I think I think the opposite. But yeah, our daughter.
Okay, so another reason that this interview is awkward AF is that you can tell how Mary Kay Letourneau is weighing every subject that presents itself. It's weighing in the balance with this massive scandal, right? With her being a predator to Vili when Vili was 13 and she was 35. And then they had two daughters that came of that. Do you see how she objects to the idea that uh, girls move out fast and the guys stay behind? And it's hard for me to not think about her image management so much throughout this interview because it feels like the interview is 99% image management or control of her narrative, their story and reframing it, and 1%, I don't know, something else, anything else. What does she gain from reframing the story this way? I think is something that you can continue to ask throughout this interview. So, what would Mary Kay Letourneau gain from having someone believe that it's not girls that are very independent, it's the boys that are very independent and they go out there and they the second they turn 18 they want to be out on their own living in apartments. Not my personal experience, I agree more with Vili, but and it's because it's this idea that, like, well, a boy, kind of contrary to everything I've heard, but like boys grow up faster, they mature faster. 13-year-old for a boy isn't necessarily the same for a 13-year-old as a girl. So maybe Mary Kay Letourneau wasn't a predator, all of that. So another thing I see so much that asking for approval that the behavior panel talks about with the eyes raised, looking at the interviewer. I also see a lot of lip licking, which is like, grooming. I see it with Mary Kay Letourneau and with the interviewer. With Vili, what I see that I think is really interesting is you see where his sight is. A lot of times he's kind of looking right past Mary Kay Letourneau. And to me, that reads as he's tuning out a little bit. But then when he chimes in very meaningfully. So I don't know, not to get all psychoanalytical here because that would be nuts, but it makes me wonder if that's his way of staying engaged while allowing himself to disassociate enough to feel comfortable. Because to me, based on body language here, it's clear that this couple isn't entirely happy together, that they don't entirely agree on important elements of their backstory, perhaps. Okay.
Was college bound, and now she has a different idea, and so we have to be patient with that. So she was always our youngest. We're going to be patient with that.
I know I was
She
out
wants
when
to
I was
take
16, so
16?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, guys are a little bit different. A lot of the guys I know, they hang in longer because they get the free rent, you know. But guys are very basic like that.
I
Why not? You get free
see.
meal,
I see where
free
you're.
rent.
I see where you're both coming from. All right.
And girls, they're a little more independent, you know. I mean, a lot of the girls that I knew growing up, they were out of their house when they were 18. Yeah, yeah.
Well, give me a...
Huh. I'm sorry. Okay, so I have to correct myself. I thought he was arguing the opposite. Yeah, so now I'm a little puzzled. That doesn't fit with my theory, but I'll keep that in mind. I think in general, any kind of pushback, and this is another, like, imagine you're having dinner with your friends that are a couple sitting across from you and they argue maybe politely about, well, no, that's not actually the best thing on the menu, or, some sort of disagreement that they have. And within that disagreement is the tug of war of their relationship. But it presents itself in polite society, in public, in this feel the way that they feel acceptable to display their discontent with each other. It's a way for them to discharge this tension.
sense, Vili, if you could, of your upbringing, your childhood. You come from, fair to say, a very big family.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was married 5 times, and there's a total of 18 of us siblings. We didn't grow up all together. I grew up with my 4 full-blooded siblings. I eventually met the rest of them when growing up. I still have more to meet, but yeah.
That's that's a sort of a crazy upbringing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going on at Christmas or around the family dinner table.
It just stays simple. I mean, not everyone gets a Christmas gift, but yeah, just close relatives, you know.
Yeah, Mary, what about you? What about your background and your upbringing? Tell me a bit about your family.
All right. So, my father was married once. Just saying. Where are we going? My
And tell me a bit about your father.
Yeah, this is so fascinating. So I love reading Billy's body language because he's so subtle and understated. And the only thing that I really saw, you see all these micro expressions, and like he'll say something and then his lip will go like the tiniest little, suppressing a grin or something like that, or a grimace. The only thing I really saw was when he mentioned how many siblings he had, which was a lot, and he did a little bit of eyebrow raise, which the behavior panel talks about, like requests for approval. I think they also describe it as like kind of making sure that people get it. Like, did you like fully understand that? And I love this moment between them when, because I don't know, it's so strange. Tell me if you disagree with this, but even knowing their history, even knowing that she was a predator, like for some reason in this moment for this couple, now that they're both adults who are able to consent, there's like a strange part of me that's like rooting for them to get along. I don't know. I don't know if that's really messed up. But so or maybe it's just so uncomfortable to watch people, like it makes your skin crawl, right? When you're watching people who are very uncomfortable with each other in this very awkward interview. So that moment of them laughing is such a release, and it looks like genuine joy on both of their faces. And I wonder if this is a little peek into their actual dynamic, that Vili's okay with Mary Kay kind of taking him down a peg or poking fun in, seemingly a lighthearted way, but still, I guess it's familiar in their dynamic for her to have the upper hand, right? Because of how could she not with your relationship starting that way?
I have a mother my father's passed away, and I have 6 siblings. Five still living.
Was it a Catholic upbringing for you, Mary?
Yes.
And what did that involve? How kind of devout, how traditional was your family in that regard?
For me, it's just a beautiful heritage. That's how I do think of it. And I just, personally, when I've traveled internationally, something about going into a Catholic church, it's just, they're all the same in the sacredness feeling. And it's just I know you're asking what was that like as if there's some uniqueness to being raised Catholic. But I guess I'm just taking present. How does it feel to have been raised Catholic? I just, I just think of it historically, because it's not just that I was raised Catholic, it's both of my parents are from a Catholic family, and back and back and back and back, so that's why I say a heritage. And so when I go into a Catholic church, doesn't matter where it is, it's it just feels really good. It's like it's like this flooding of my heritage. And I won't say that I am entirely, if someone put a certain doctrine in front of me that was Catholic, said, what do you think of this? It doesn't mean a lot to me. I'm more, I shouldn't say it like that. I don't like, I wouldn't say, because that's like rules, the doctrine of the Catholic Church, and I more am appreciative of the roots of the Catholic Church, which is really just the core of Christianity. People think there's a difference. Really? No,
And
there is.
that could be a
No, there
whole
isn't.
separate lengthy discussion.
No,
that one.
I'm just saying, no, there isn't. You know, no, I just, I'm not sure what your question was, but I think that you think that I think you're asking about certain, if there was a uniqueness, if I think there was a uniqueness.
Let me ask you about you two. When did you?
Okay. This is a master class in chaff and redirect, and she, per Greg Hartley of the behavior panel, and she chaffs and redirects so hard she gets lost. She doesn't even know where she's going. And I get the same energy from this as I get if you've ever watched an interrogation where we know after the fact that that person was the person who did it. And when you contrast direct questions and how their answer style with direct questions versus their answering style for anything that's off topic. And Dreading just released a video today about why you shouldn't take the stand in your own defense. And it follows a similar pattern. When the people on the stand or in the interrogation are given the opportunity to talk about anything else other than the crime at hand or anything related to it, they will write a friggin' novel and go on. You know, it makes you think of that author lady. I'll insert her here, who she starts writing novels in her responses to things. And well, it all began with, it's crazy. And it's a way for them to release that pent up tension, that nervousness, and to vamp for themselves and to run the clock, basically, so that if, when, and hopefully they're pushing off that discomfort indefinitely into the future, the difficult question arises, they have at least burned through some of that time, or they have shown cooperation, they've shown a willingness to respond, all of these things. And the answer that she just gave to that was incomprehensible. But you see how brilliant this interviewer is. He lets her go and go and go and doesn't interrupt. And there's so many awkward moments where she's like, I think you think, where it would be easy for most of us to chime in and be like, oh, let me clarify or whatever. And that guy is so comfortable in that discomfort. Like, it's just really well done. So let me back up a tiny bit.
If I think there was uniqueness.
Let me ask you about you two. When did you first meet Vili?
Meet? Well, I met his brothers and older sister before I met him. So there are 4 in his family. And then the first time I was familiar with the name Vili Fualaau, gosh, I don't know, 1989, 88, not sure.
Was that when you were here, his year 2 teacher?
He was one of my students back then. I hardly remember. Of course, I remember his name. So, and I knew the Fualaa family.
Okay. Oof. Woo woo. That was like a moment. Did you see Vili side-eye her? I get the vibe. It's almost like, are you going to be honest? Are you going to answer this? What are you going to reply? And it's fascinating that Vili sits back and lets her. And I don't know if there was some previously agreed upon thing. And then again, chaff and redirect, like, well, the first time I was ever remotely aware of the name, like, it's an attempt to get you so far away from the facts of the story, which is the real question, which is how old was Vili when he was a young boy that you were teaching and you began essaying him? That's tough. Like, no wonder it's like interrogation room behavior.
Because I knew the other siblings. So before, and then here came a unique one. So, well, they're all quite unique, as any family, I think, or all the siblings are unique.
This will be a test of your memory, Vili. I mean, you would have been 8 or so back then. Do you have any memory of those years?
He's
I
told
have
me.
like, not really like good memories, but some of them are just random, just pretty much random stuff.
What sort of memories?
Like I remember hiding in the closet. There was a closet in the
Oh, no.
in the classroom, and then me and my friends, we used to be in there hiding in the classroom.
From Mary?
Why don't you say what you were doing hiding in the
We were
closet?
just hiding in the closet.
No, what did you tell me you were doing?
That's weird to talk about right now.
Which only makes me want to know about it even more. Go on, Mary. What was he doing in the closet?
Oh,
It's
this
just
is
really-
what you said to me is like, yeah, we'd hide in the closet and we'd hope you'd walk past so we could look under your skirt. I'm like, what the heck? I mean, who's like tells like years later, like, is that what you told? It is what you told me.
Does that make you feel better?
No, I'm just saying.
Do I need to pause for mediation here?
No, I'm just saying it was like, what does he remember? That's what he told me he remembered. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. There's also like 2 or 3 girls in there that liked me, and I used to get like these weird messages from them, like little notes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your child needs these 3 key factors to get into an Ivy League or top 25.
There you go.
I thought I was so aware. I had no idea there were closet. The closet spanned the whole side of this, so it's not like just for the visual. And there were these big, giant, like from bottom to top, the doors. All right.
What attracted you to...
Oof. Yeah, I don't know how it could get any more awkward than that moment. Okay, so it's very poignant to me that Vili chooses to bring up the detail of girls his age having crushes on him. And Mary Kay Letourneau, uses classroom closets as an opportunity to roll out this narrative about Vili being the aggressor, right? That he and his friends were the ones who were trying to like look up her skirt, and she's just an innocent, naive school teacher doing what she does. Meanwhile, the anecdote that Vili brings up is about his like peers of his, girls, having a crush on him, which is a very normal, natural thing and age appropriate and not predatory. And that speaks volumes to me. And then for it to go past that and Vili says, do you feel better about yourself now that you shared that? Because she shared a detail that Vili was trying to get her to stop from sharing, and he was obviously uncomfortable with that. I forget the words he said, but it was something to the effect of, it's not appropriate to talk about that. And this is so interesting in terms of a glimpse to the dynamic of their relationship. While Mary Kay Letourneau is obsessively monitoring image perception she's still revealing things that Vili's not comfortable with, that Vili doesn't deem appropriate. So it just shows you how their values and priorities and kind of worldview is so different. And I think it's obvious that he doesn't share the same feelings about that memory recollection, he doesn't share the same feelings that she does about that moment. So she still seems to fondly revel in the attention that a young boy was giving her that any well-adjusted normal adult would have ignored or even lightly reprimanded. Instead, to her, it's a fond memory, probably because a big drive of hers was getting that type of attention, which I talk about in the Female Predators video.
Teaching initially.
Big, giant, like from bottom to top.
What attracted you to teaching initially, Mary?
I just found myself. I was originally in the School of Music in college and always had the music background. And I found myself music and dance. I found myself in teaching positions, whether it be coaching or choreography, and I just, once I got to college, and as much as I enjoyed it, and I believed that I knew I was good in the arts in that area, and I so enjoyed it, and I thought I might join what's called Kids of the Kingdom, which was part of Disneyland. They traveled, and they did dance and singing, music. So I thought, oh yeah, that may be where I'll start, right? And so far as what would someone do with a background in music and that kind of interest. But when I got to college, I found that I was good.
Is this music or teaching are you talking about?
I'm talking about music.
Can I ask
and
about
this is
teaching?
this is what happened. I found I was an A at teaching. Because even the professors at college, they was like, oh, well, you take this group over here. They recognized, and even prior to that, prior to getting to college, I was coaching this and choreography, and I realized that, you know what, I'm a B in music and dance. I'm a B, good. That's good, nothing wrong with a B. But I was an A at teaching, and everybody recognized it, and I've soon recognized for myself that I was really an A.
What made you an A at teaching?
Is it me, or does this interviewer like give sexy eyes sometimes? It could just be because he's like actually attractive, but like, almost like the seductress, like romancer kind of thing. He's like, what made you good at teaching? Tell me in the comments if you agree with that. So, oh my God, did you see that response he gave to her when he asked, like, okay, but what about teaching? Because she went on this monologue about dancing and whatever she was saying about the Disneyland kids and stuff. I saw him adjust in his chair and seemed like he dug down and like went right in for it again. This guy is so good. I'd like to see other interviews of his. And I was gonna say, I would have to watch another video or something to see if I could try to get a baseline from her, because from the beginning of this video, it feels like it's already so tense and heightened that I don't know if you could really call that a baseline. But it does seem like when she gets nervous, she chaff and directs even more. She kind of gets a little bit more confrontational and like stingy, but let's keep going.
I think just being tuned in to a lot of good listening and being aware, and how about just really making clear what the objective is, and setting the goals, adjusting them along the way, as the learning or the gaps are showing, knowing how to adjust things and bringing in the resources, and it just was natural, very natural.
Can you remember back, Vili, to being a student? Was Mary a good teacher?
I remember all the kids really tuned into what she was saying. Yeah, I don't really know what to look for and what.
You saw that searching she was doing just now? Here, let's watch it back. She almost looks like she's like pleading with him to look at her. It's interesting that he starts that answer with saying all the kids what they thought of her, but not what he thought. I don't know why he agreed to do this interview. It feels like he's trying to remove himself, like from her, from their past, even from their like current relationship a bit. But y'all tell me what you think.
Yeah, I don't really know what to look for and what a good teacher, what a good bad teacher is. For me, a good teacher would keep my attention, and a bad teacher would be someone who talks, where it's like kind of monotone, where it's kind of like, just kind of fall asleep while the teacher's talking, which just happened a lot of times in middle schools.
Well, it's fair to say Mary had your attention, I believe. What? This is a tough question. What first attracted you to Mary? Can you remember?
She was pretty, and yeah, I think that was it. And then,
Let's watch that back.
and yeah, I think that was it. And then, I don't know. I kind of like that she drew a little bit. She taught some art stuff, and I thought that was kind of cool. And then I think like in 6th grade, we kind of connected on certain things. Kind of like saw common views on stuff, life, and
Similar interests?
yeah. So.
Mary, when did you first realize?
Oh man, he is so restrained. I think for him, that may be a big part of his baseline, though. He's so uncomfortable. He so doesn't want to answer anything having to do with being a child who is preyed upon. And almost seems like he doesn't want to romanticize it in any way. Almost like he's looking from the lens of a father. At this point, their kids are like approaching adulthood. And yeah, so it sounds like he's unwilling to talk about it from the perspective of what he was feeling, and probably because he sees it for what it is now. So once you know it, you can't, once you acknowledge the abuse, right? It's hard to romanticize it, of course. But then there's that moment of the tension relief where they're laughing together. And I guess that's a moment where you see true chemistry that they have with each other. And maybe there is an element of fun that they have with each other that helped them through all these crazy times.
I have feelings for a student.
Probably, well, first of all, he wasn't my student when any feelings. So, which I think is really important. Here, it was very important for here in the United States, in the state of Washington, it was really important for it to be put out, I guess politically, in a lot of legislation, It was important to portray it as if it was a student-teacher relationship, but it really wasn't. So even though once upon a time, even you ask, well, when did you first? Well, I feel kind of awkward answering that because it's sort of wanting to connect it to this was a student-teacher relationship, and which is really big in law, and doesn't matter coach, teacher,
I think she's basically
supervisory.
saying it was like sometime
It was
after.
after. So I am saying
Summer.
that. I was taking college classes for my continuing education, for my certification in teaching. You have to have it every 5 years. You got to update. So, or else they pull your certification. So, and same in a lot of industry professions. You have to do continuing education. I had classes. He was also in a class at the same college. So for summer, so yes, it was summer school, but it was a class in the summer.
Let me ask you, Vili, in a different way. At what point did this morph, I guess, from teacher and former student to boyfriend and girlfriend?
Um, just, just a friendship, really. And then during summertime, things just got a little closer, and there was some I don't even know how to say it, dramatic stuff going on, drama.
Really? What?
There was plenty of dramatic stuff going on.
I don't know. There was a lot of things that kind of just led to us kind of connecting on a deeper level, and then it got even more wild, crazy once the police found out and her husband found out, and
I think we at least.
Oof. So this reminds me of what the behavior panel talks about in terms of vanishing perpetrator. When he's talking about the events, he's saying like it got this and it was like that, and just trying to remove himself so much from the situation that he completely avoids speaking in first person in this little section here. And I think he's very effective. It's interesting. It's interesting to think about it from like almost a debate standpoint or something, that because he minimizes it so much and gives you such little detail, I'm I almost end up thinking like, oh yeah, okay, well, there was friendship once upon a time between two hypothetical people, and then it got heavier than that. It got a little dramatic, and then it was wild. And then basically, the drama was over. And that's such a whitewashing and hyper minimization of any of that stuff that happened. And I wonder if he does that on a personal, internal level as a cope to a certain extent.
and
I think at least we spoke to each other as if in that summer we felt like it was boyfriend, girlfriend. And that's why, I guess that's what there wasn't a teacher, well, when you consider we were in the same college, we both took an art class at the same college. And I think it felt really great. I'm just saying it felt great because we were close as friends. And then just to not be his teacher in any capacity.
So you see how obsessed she is with making the distinction that when the SA started, she was not teaching him. I don't know what this lady was thinking. Like, this wasn't a case of sexual harassment in the workplace where if you aren't someone's boss or manager, then it's it's way more acceptable for someone to hit on someone, right? That is not this situation. That is not the objection that people have to it. I know she wanted to chaff and redirect and make it about these big ideas about law, and in the state of Washington it was really important in terms of law, and then in the United States on a whole, and this is why people are paying attention to it, because it's changes to the law. That had nothing to do with it, bruh. Like, you were an adult who was grooming a child, a 13-year-old boy that you'd known since he was 8, 9, to do inappropriate things with you. And you really start to see that disconnect. She reminisces on it and kind of swipes her hair back and touches her lips and says something to the effect of, like, it was a good time to, and she's reminiscing here clearly. And it just feels like Arrested Development, that you could be a woman in her mid 30s feeling like you want to have a connection with a child. You often hear that people get stunted at the age at which they experienced some form of abuse. And that if something like that happened to them, then that is kind of what they're looking for in terms of their prey, if they in turn perpetuate the cycle. And it just makes you wonder if she didn't feel emotionally like she could relate to peers, 35-year-olds, and maybe some abuse or not made it more in her that she felt more of a kinship with adolescent. Is that adolescent, pre-adolescent, middle school boys?
And to be friends and to be working on the same projects in just on the same level. And it just felt great. And just saying, I don't know what was dramatic going on, but I mean, inside of us, probably, yeah. When things, when we realized, I don't know, you called me your girlfriend. I
did.
Yeah, you did.
It's best not to argue. It's best not to argue, Vili. This is my experience.
Now it's my husband.
You see how little acknowledgement Vili has of, at least so far, of like having any attraction. He did admit she was pretty, but he doesn't seem to be complicit in talking about, in making it like he was making advances on her at all. And I wonder if this came after some deep reflection on, like, okay, yeah, but even if I was a 13-year-old hitting on you, you were the adult, you should have known better, you should have done better. I didn't have a fully formed brain at the time, and I wouldn't for a decade, but you fully had yours, and with your adult brain made the decision to essay a child.
Yeah.
When, Mary, did Vili make it clear to you that he was interested in you physically, sexually, I guess? Can you remember that moment? You must remember that moment.
I just remember, yes, there was one point, and I said, put that away. I just meant the idea. And there's a story about that. I don't know how much time we have, but.
How did that idea manifest, Vili? What did you say?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, I appreciated, this is the wrong word, but there was a moment where he said that he did say he was in love with me. And it scared me. And.
That was before anything physical between you both? He said he was in love?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like weeks, a month.
Did it feel like love to you back then, Vili?
Yeah. I mean, for anyone, yeah. what you would, I don't know, for me, yeah. I mean, for anybody, first time, figure out what love is for the first time, that's all you know. So for what I know that it was back then, yeah, I would say that was real love.
I'm trying to take a couple of steps back to when you first made that brave decision to say something to Mary. Was it initially on a dare or, in front of your mates?
Yeah, it was actually, it started off that way with trying to get closer to her, but that was the reason.
Of which
And
I knew nothing about.
yeah, so that's how her and I started talking, was because there was that bet. And then, later down the road in the relationship, kind of just, the bet just wasn't even, it hadn't even crossed my mind anymore, so.
Have this interview, to agree to this interview when it's so clear that Vili is so uncomfortable by it. And he doesn't want to answer specifics about who made the first move on who, sort of salacious details about a very inappropriate series of events. And this interviewer is so good, though. He manages to, okay, well, you're not going to tell me the physical things, but okay, I can lead you with, I already know the details about this. Can you tell me a little bit about this and the bet, blah, blah, blah. The only thing I can imagine is maybe they were given a lot of money for it. No shade, man. If somebody was like, oh, we'll give you, I don't know, $250,000 for this interview. And Vili might have even said, okay, but I'm not specifically talking about XYZ. So he's holding the line here. But you see how invested Mary Kay is in casting herself as this innocent, wide-eyed, naive character who doesn't know what's going on, and she's just befriending this boy and they have so much in common, and there's no power dynamic. She's not his superior who's an adult who's decades older than him. They are peers. They're in the same art class together. They have to be peers. Just like the level of mental deception to yourself must have been exhausting.
Yeah. So, one thing, and I think this is an answer to your question. It was, and I still think about this moment, and still, because I remember, well, I'm just saying, every time I think about this moment, you remember when you came to me to write, you said, wait, and this was when it was a very, very end of the school year. And I don't even think school was really, I think it was basically done, things were closing up, but I was on my way out the door and he said, wait a minute. And he said, how old do you think you're gonna be when you die? And I said, I was really excited because I'm gonna talk about my grandmother, right? And I know I just said my mom's gonna live till 100, but my grandmother, which is not even her mother, my father's mother, she really did live to 103. And so I was really excited because he had never asked about my grandmother or any, thing maybe beyond my parents. And I said, well, I'm gonna at least be 100 because my grandmother right now is 100. And I'm most like her. I started talking about how she still teaches piano, and she was 100, right? And I was really excited inside that he was interested in, I don't know. I was excited to talk about my grandmother, and he cut me off, and he said, well, if you're gonna be 100, then I'm gonna be 80 because I'm not living another day in this world without you. And I just was like, and look.
It's a pretty romantic thing for a teenage boy to say.
I said, you just said that to me? But at the time, we were just close. And I was, a little tiny bit of me was like, you just cut me off. I was talking about my grandmother. And I mean, if someone asked you to talk about your grandmother, asked you to, well, I guess you didn't really ask me. I thought it was an opening to talk about my grandmother, which I was proud to talk about.
If you extrapolate the age forward like that, it makes it sound better, right? But, you know, back then, 34 and 13, did you have a sense that what you were doing wasn't right?
Hearing him say,
Putting the grandmother aside at just the age.
80 and 100.
Y'all, oh man, if chaff and redirect was a person, basically Mary Kay Letourneau, it reminds me so much. I had this friend in high school whose mother was, probably still is, an alcoholic, and I remember every night on the weekends before we would head out, she would be sitting there in her kitchen on her stool, smoking her cigarettes and drinking her gin. And she'd always want to tell us this like long story, and my friend couldn't stand it, and she would always interrupt her and be like, yeah, mom, we gotta go. And I always enjoyed it because I knew it was like the last moment before my friend and I were like off on the town, and we would never come back. You know, we would say we're sleeping out, whatever, spend the whole night out. And but I always was curious about what she was hoping to achieve in those moments. And I sincerely believe it was her attempt to connect in whatever way she could, and her mother. And that it came out in this long, rambly, chaff and redirect way because it was still scratching some kind of an itch of, you know, I can't directly tell the truth or be vulnerable and open up about my feelings and say, like, sit, I want to hang out with you a little bit before you go or whatever. But I can tell you this rambling, incoherent, crazy story. Plus, you know, she was drunk. But I can't stop thinking about that when I watch Mary Kay Letourneau. Um, and I love how the interviewer calls her on it and is like putting the grandmother aside. Like, how in the world could your grandmother be material right now? That's crazy. But it's so important for her to control the narrative here. And Vili seems to have totally opted out of that, of trying to run cover on their history.
Well,
What about back then, though, 34 and 13?
I was just thinking about 80 and 100, if you want to know the truth.
No, a part of you was thinking about, part of you must have been thinking, Mary, you, by all accounts, everyone in Des Moines says you're one of the best teachers going around, a fierce intellect. You must have known, such a smart woman, that something wasn't right about what was going on at that age.
Well, just know that there wasn't any thought or any idea that something was going to happen. So no, there wasn't a thought about, we were just, even when he said 80 and 100, I was just thinking, you're so right, I don't want to live another day without you either. No, it wasn't a thought of, oh, and we're gonna have children, and there wasn't a thought like that. It was that type of a closeness that, you're so right, I don't want to live another day without you either.
What's fascinating about your relationship is that it has endured. You know, that separates it from anything else that might go in the, what people would call teacher-student space. But I think what I'm trying to get at is a sense of back at the time, at its inception, before this had evolved into something like love. Wasn't this just a physical relationship between a woman and a man, or I should say at that point, a little boy?
Well, you shouldn't say a little boy.
He was 13.
Oof. You see how direct she can be when she wants to be? I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with Streetcar Named Desire, if you've ever seen it on stage or the film version a long time ago with Marlon Brando. She is so Blanche, y'all. Like this wistful, kind of, you know, innocent, naive, poetic, rambling, long, and like can't, doesn't want to be pinned down, you know, is really good at like sliding out. But it's so fascinating to see, like, when she wants to correct him, like how, and she must have had that ability. If she was that good of a teacher, you don't just have that kind of childlike, imaginative aspect of you where you can be open to where kids are coming from because you're empathetic in that way and putting yourself on their level, whatever. But you're also, I don't know, like most teachers I've known, they like the orderliness and kind of being in charge. They enjoy that about a classroom. I remember, sorry, I'll make it quick. I taught reading, summer reading to a bunch of different age groups. I think it was kindergarten up to 13. And we went to various schools, whatever. It was exhausting for a few months. And my feeling was I I was a good teacher. I got a lot of praise about that, which was nice. But I enjoyed kind of chatting with the kids more than needing to do this like structured routine thing to them. So I tried teaching out that summer to see if I would like it or not. I ended up walking away from it because it was like I much rather would be in a setting where I'm babysitting kids or in like a group class where I'm teaching a few of them like how to do something creative like theater or art or something like that. I more just wanted to hang out with them than I wanted to be on some structured plan teaching them something. So I think I lacked that aspect of like the in charge, headmistress thing. But Mary Kay Letourneau to me has that in spades. So as much as she wants to turn up this childlikeness about her, you'll see these glimmers of like the headmistress. Coincidentally, too, Blanche, a streetcar named Desire, was also a teacher and also had an inappropriate relationship with a young student. That is so weird. And also is usually cast as a blonde woman. Okay.
I know, but you shouldn't say a little boy.
Well, a teenage boy.
So,
It was a little
well,
boy.
some people are incarcerated in this state at age 13 and they're treated as an adult and they're not called little boys and they get a life sentence. So when you put it in that perspective, so it's like, which angle do you want to come at?
I want to come at it from
You see that challenge? I think her eyebrows being up often is part of her baseline. So I guess like requesting approval very often is part of her baseline. Um, yeah, and you see that interesting maneuver. I mean, predators will tell themselves all kinds of things, right? Like, well, she was 2 months away from it being legal, or if we would have been in that state, it would have been legal. And it's just like, okay, groomer, like you're just showing your predatory nature. Like, this isn't a legal discussion, debate in the sense of like, well, should they be tried as an adult or not? This is just the facts, ma'am. Just, he was a boy, a boy. I have nephews that are that age, and I don't know, man. It's like I love them, but it's hard to even like hold a conversation for like longer than a few minutes because I can't relate and they can't relate. It's like, oh yeah, soccer, really fun, cool, this silly dance move, bye. And I'm like, yeah, bye. The fact that that never even registers to her, like that this is a child, is deeply disturbing.
No, I'll tell you.
No, do you want to know, are you hearing what I'm saying?
I'm hearing what you're saying, but I
So
want to come at
the-
it from this angle. As a 34-year-old woman, did you have any philosophical problems, moral problems, with entertaining the idea of a relationship with a 13-year-old boy?
Well, I wasn't entertaining the idea, and that's my point.
But
So-
you clearly were.
Again, trying to get off on a technicality, but you're not fooling anybody, dude. Like, maybe you were able to justify itself and like sleep at night for many years because of your complex justifications. And also, maybe that's part of what Vili got sick of, right? Is if in order for their marriage to be a healthy partnership or whatever, get along, he had to go along with the party line of, I didn't pursue you. You were fully capable of making decisions. You were a young man. You pursued me. I wasn't your teacher, so it was totally okay. If you need that premise in order for your relationship to be peaceful, happy, successful, and only one of you is committed to perpetuating that idea, and then the other one, like the odor of mendacity, is that the saying, starts to stink so bad that you like, I got a GTFO. You can see like there's what do they call it, irreconcilable differences, for sure.
Ending the idea, and that's my point.
But,
So,
but you clearly were.
eventually, we both.
And did you have any pause at the time, thinking, Mary, stay away from him, this isn't right?
What I thought is, he doesn't understand that I have 4 children and I have responsibilities.
Come on.
That's the only thing.
Y'all, I don't, tell me what you think. Was she really this mistaken? Truly? Or is this a coping mechanism, a highly complex coping defense mechanism that allows her to justify raping a young boy? Because this whole thing about, yeah, what did she say right here?
Children and I have responsibilities.
Making it as if it's an adult relationship, and the issue in your affair is that it's an extramarital affair and you have kids and a husband and whatever. Again, it's like always taking it into the context of an adult consensual relationship. So I don't know where the disconnect is. And I know there's some weird stuff with her dad being a predator, I believe, or was it just he had an extramarital affair? I can't remember. But and then she worshiped her father, really idolized him. So I don't know if some of that is internalized, what she learned from observation, and in doing perpetuating that, she's making sure that she's not making her father wrong as well. But all right, let's do a few more minutes and then I'll wrap it up.
That's the only thing. And you have to keep in mind that now it's 20 years ago, and sure, in the last 10 years, all across the world, the laws have changed and everybody, and you'll even see, ever since Mary Letourneau, but see, that was 20 years ago. Now everybody has their eyes open and is aware. Surely, I hope every teacher, and forget about even the teacher part, I would hope that every adult that's a female, regardless of being a teacher, would know, after my situation, pay attention. Because there are laws. You might think when you're in a world, we were close, and no, we weren't thinking about those things. No, I wasn't. There were no laws back that anybody, there were no situations.
No, there were laws. There were laws, Mary.
Oh,
the law
no,
was
there weren't.
statutory rape.
For males. And if you look historically, it was a male only. And then the laws changed when equality. Let's go, Matt, on this. You want to? Because I'm ready.
Sure.
Okay, so the Equal Rights Amendments from state to state here in the United States, and it even happened over in Australia, New Zealand, and what's called the Equal Rights Amendment. And what they did is they gender neutraled the laws. Prior to that, it was male only. It was a male only statutory rape. So when did somebody get on the news and say, hello world, or hello New Zealand, hello, or I don't know how you do your states over there, but if they're in states, nobody did a press release here in the state of Washington or in California, where I was from, and said, we have now changed the laws. It is no longer it is no longer gender specific, a male only. When I grew up, sure, as a teenager, I knew that, oh, if that male, the males knew, because it was a well-known thing, because a lot of dads out there were saying, stay away from the daughters here in this house, because I'll get a shotgun out, because you're older, and I can go to the police, and it would be called statutory rape. I don't care if you love my daughter. You're 26, you're 30, whatever you are, and my daughter's only 16, 13, 15, whatever. It was a very well-known, statutory rape was. It was very well known. It didn't matter if there was love. It didn't matter if it was consensual. And that word is there. Statutory, meaning it doesn't matter if there's consent. Male only, and it's not until, and if you can look all across any kind of scholastic reading on this that goes historically, and my name will even be there, not until my situation in the law, the conflict in the law, did.
So are you saying there was confusion about the law at that time, or that you didn't understand
Nobody
the law?
knew it. Who knew it? Who knew it?
But you knew.
No.
Mary, come on, you knew that it was not right, even if it wasn't black and
Maybe
white.
morally.
If you didn't have
No,
the
maybe
statutory
morally.
papers there,
Morally.
you knew.
Morally, is that's what you're saying? Morally.
No, I'm saying morally and legally.
Not the legally part, no.
But you are such a smart person.
One, I'd never even been in a courtroom. Yes, I am a smart person, but I'm like hyper-focused in my areas.
So you're saying, Matt, I'm a smart person, I'm revered as a teacher, but I just didn't know it wasn't right as a 34-year-old to be with a 13-year-old? Sorry, I just didn't know.
Not in a criminal sense, but I thought, first of all, you just said teacher again, and
Well, you were his teacher in second grade.
once upon a time.
We are gonna stop it here. I'm sorry for all of the ads. Okay, a couple of things that I forgot to say earlier.
This holiday season.
Now that, Mary Kay Letourneau fell on the sword of statutory RAP, whatever, YouTube, you better not, teachers, go out there and say you don't know. Wow, dude, project much? That is insane. And then this whole tit for tat back and forth about, and you notice how quiet Vili is. Like, I feel like his goal in the interview is just to say less, say as little as possible, just keep it moving. That moment where he had to translate for her, and he's like, I think she's saying blah, 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 and he concisely wraps it up for her. This whole, again, mental gymnastics about, well, that wasn't a law back then. But I wonder if this gets to something that might be an actual point, which is the reason why I made the female predator video recently. It's been this misconception for a very long time amongst various members of the public that it's okay for a female predator to prey on a male child because insert the messed up lie of a reason. He wants it. It's a fantasy. A female can't grape a male, biologically speaking. Like, all these different lies that have perpetuated this idea that, oh, it's hot if you're a male student and you get to do that with your teacher. That issue is a ball of yarn unto itself. But the thing that unravels it like that is that it doesn't matter if you are a male or a female. If you are a child, you are a child. And if an adult is preying on you, you don't have to be a female to be a victim of that. Period. But I think for a long time, we didn't really wrap our heads around that. And I wonder if even now, with this slew of female predators being exposed, I wonder if that misconception is still being perpetuated. And so I wonder if that is at the heart of all of these verbal jujitsu things that Mary Kay Letourneau is trying on the interviewer. maybe at the heart of it, Mary Kay Letourneau doesn't truly believe that she could have been a predator because she is a female. By virtue of being a female and her thinking that Vili was pursuing her, she thinks that she couldn't have been a predator. Now, this whole thing about I didn't know the law, that's just elaborate chaff and redirect and wanting to make it about a legal debate because that's way more comfortable than talking about preying upon a young child when you are a fully grown adult. It looks like we are almost halfway through. I hope I didn't talk too much for you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I will see you next time.